In the World War II you had been?
I beg your pardon?
You had been a pilot or a gunner or?
I was a pilot,
You was
yes.
a pilot?
Yes, B-17 pilot. Got over to England in August of 1943.
Yeah.
Flew my first mission. We bombed Le Bourget Airport in France. And the next day, we came to Schweinfurt. And that's when I found out what the war was all about. Because that was a rough mission, too. And then, of course, in October, on October 14th, we were briefed to come back to Schweinfurt. And everybody that was in the briefing room that had been on the first mission, when they pulled that curtain and showed the target of Schweinfurt, a big groan went up. Oh, not Schweinfurt again. But we came. The weather was perfect, and it was rough all the way. You know, at that time of the war, the 8th Air Force had no long-range fighters, and the P-47s and P-48s would escort us across the channel, and as soon as we got to the German border, they had to return to base. And from Aachen came the fighters, and from then on, all the way into the target, we were under pretty heavy attack. They estimated that we saw more than 350 German fighters. I didn't have any idea that the Germans had so many different kinds of airplanes. They had everything they could muster in the air that day, I think. Everything from FW-190s and Me-109s to four-engine bombers. And those bombers sat out of the range of our guns, and they lobbed shells into the formation. And as you well know, they, plus the anti-aircraft fire from the Schweinfurt area, cost us 60 B-17s that day. Actually, 601 men. There was an observer on one of the airplanes. So we lost 601 men. Now, many of those became prisoners, but many also were killed. I was very fortunate. The plane that we were flying was called Luscious Lady, and we didn't have a crewman injured. But when we got back to England, we counted more than 200 holes in the airplane. It's hard to imagine how you can get that shot up without somebody getting injured, but we had no injuries. The airplane had to be patched up before it could go to the repair depot, and there they had to do major work on it. It was 2 weeks before the airplane came back to the base. And even that was pretty lucky, because a number of airplanes crashed near the coast of England, and others were so badly damaged that they never flew again. They were cannibalized for parts. It was I completed 25 missions, and of course, second Schweinfurt was the toughest of all of them. We flew one that we ditched in the English Channel, but that was a picnic compared to Schweinfurt. And all of the crew that I was with finished 25 missions and were returned to the United States. And we were one of the very, very luckiest, because at that time there was only about 1 in 3 that completed a tour of missions.
Do you have some impressions, especially about Schweinfurt?
Now
From the air?
or then? From the air? Well, of course, you know, we couldn't see much from 26,000 feet. We could see the rivers, and we knew where the target was in the general area. But we, and you didn't think about the population at that time. We were hoping to destroy the ball bearing works, but I know that many people on the ground died that day. But you couldn't concentrate on that. You had to concentrate on flying and doing what you were assigned to do. That was the first time that I saw German rockets, and as we approached the start of our bomb run, the group ahead of us, I saw 2 airplanes hit by rockets and just almost completely disintegrated. Just bits of metal floating down to the ground. And of course that was quite scary. But the great part about it is that I've had a hand in bringing these 2 groups back together. And the slogan of enemies by chance and friends by choice is really unique. It's an unusual situation, and we have enjoyed the association with the German people and the Flakhelfers. This is the 4th time that my wife and I have been back to Germany, and every time it's been a great trip.
Had you been on a second tour to Europe?
A second tour?
In World War II?
No.
No.
No, I flew one and I had it. I went home and became an instructor in B-17s and did that until the end of the war.
And do you remember also the first Schweinfurt attack?
Oh yeah. The first one was a little bit similar to the second one, but the opposition wasn't as heavy. We lost, I think it was 35 B-17s on that one. That was the mission that the 8th Air Force split, and part of the outfit went to Africa, bombed Regensburg and went to Africa, and the other part, which I was part of, came to Schweinfurt. So there weren't as many of us, but and 35 was a pretty heavy loss. But the second Schweinfurt was much tougher, and in fact, there was talk of stopping daylight bombing after that mission because of that loss. The 8th Air Force had counted on a loss rate of up to 8%, and that day it was over 20%. So from then until the end of the year, we didn't fly any deep penetration missions. We flew into the occupied countries and maybe barely into Germany, but no deep penetrations until after we got long-range fighter support.
When you see a plane disintegrating in front of you, what do you think about in this moment?
You're just amazed, and that's 10 of your comrades that are blown apart. And even if the plane isn't disintegrated, if it's hit, there are 10 of your guys going down and parachuting, and you don't know what's going to happen to them either. And it's scary, but when you're young, and I wasn't particularly young, I was 24 years old when I was flying over here, and you think that, yeah, it's going to happen to somebody else, but I'm invincible, it's not going to happen to me. But everybody thinks that. Few of us make it without some kind of injury.
Had you been afraid from the German flag?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the fighters, you could see, and they weren't as scary as the flag, because you'd see those black bursts come up in a red center when they exploded, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and they'd start walking in toward the airplane. And you never knew where they were going to start, and that was scary. We had no idea that the young men, 15 and 16 years old, were down there operating those things. But flak was a great danger.
When you started flying the B-17, how many hours you had collected flying?
1,507.
You had been a very experienced pilot.
Yeah, by the end of the war. But when I came over here, I had less than 30 hours in the B-17 when I went into combat.
30 hours?
30 hours.
It seems to be a little bit few hours.
That it was. A lot of us were pretty green. I didn't learn as much about the airplane until I got back and started instructing, and then I really found out what the airplane was all about. But it was a great airplane. It could take a lot of punishment and still get you back to base.
And after the war, you continued flying, or?
No, I wanted to, and after I got out of service, I haunted the airlines for about 6 months trying to get a job with one of them, and there were so many pilots at that time, and I just couldn't make a connection. So I went back into the field that I had started in sales and merchandising, and spent 39 years in that field and retired in 1981, 23 years ago, and have really had a wonderful retirement, been able to travel a lot, and of course the highlight has been coming back to Schweinfurt.
And when you are looking back to those days, what do you think now?
I can't believe that we did what we did with the limited training that we had, and you know, we had to develop. There'd never been anything like that with that many airplanes, and nobody knew how they were going to defend them. Although the B-17 had lots of 50 caliber guns on it, anywhere from 11 to 13, but the combat box that was developed with the planes in a certain formation had to be just made up as we went. Of course, it was fairly well started by the time I got over here. But that period from August 43 to February 44 was certainly a very critical period in the air war. And I'm glad that I was able to do my duty in it, but amazed at the fact that we were able to do what we did.
So thank you. It was very